You probably saw the Backrooms movie came out with the creator of the original internet creepypasta series, Kane Parsons, directing. With this an obsession, I think we have two back-to-back incredibly strong horror debuts. From the opening shot of Renate Reinsve as Mary, who's great here, you can tell Parsons just gets it directionally.
That big Al.
Oh yeah, appreciate you, buddy. Yes, sir.
We start out from a low angle. We see what looks like a mom and her child on their front lawn about to be crushed by debris from an excavator, only for the camera to pull back to the street where the adult version of that kid is watching her present-day childhood home being torn down by that construction crew, revealing to us that the family on the lawn was just a memory that she is reminiscing on from her past at this place. We are watching this memory literally being demolished and buried. All of this established with a few opening shots and no dialogue. Did I mention Kane Parsons is 20 years old and this is his first movie?
You are the youngest person ever.
Like, damn, that's some saucy stuff. When we get to the actual Backrooms, they're pretty spooky and dreamlike. Them being actual sets really makes all the scenes in there even more unsettling and wrong, in the right way.
What the hell's going on here?
Since they're real, they do actually connect and have layouts. It's really just fun to see Gmod no-clip in a movie. Everything down to the Source Engine door sound effects feels ripped straight out of the web series. The movie even looks good in the non-backroom locations. I was pleasantly surprised by the cinematography, especially in the found footage scenes. Reminded me of Kane Parsons' Attack on Titan fan animations. Go watch those if you haven't, they're sick. I love Chiwetel Ejiofor here. He's fantastic as Clark. He plays a good backstabber pretending to be a normal guy with this in his Doctor Strange character.
All right.
At the beginning of the movie, Clark is going to therapy. I don't think he was a great guy even before the events of the film, according to his therapy session, but he is at the bare minimum trying to make an effort to move on from his past. At some point, though, this changes. I think this moment is when he was recording the commercial, which is why the Floops Fooglies version of himself is dressed in the pirate costume. Once that particle board throne breaks, something else breaks in Clark. After that, he becomes fascinated with the Backrooms, maybe as a literal escape from reality, a place he can go to that seems like a distant memory, but also is a little off and slightly different. As a frustrated wannabe architect, seeing these infinite familiar structures and rooms, you get the sense that he knows how to navigate a new space, at least initially. He falls in love with the Backrooms like his drawings, and like his drawings, Clark thinks he's the artist there, the one in control, the one with the power to relive the past the way he remembers it. But as he learns, this isn't the case. He's less of the warden figure he thinks he is and more of the prisoner, trapped in his own distorted version of his memories, no longer able to have a future, and eventually being eaten by his own guilt. We see that when Mary runs into the Backrooms version of the furniture store, Clark's mind has merged with the Backrooms. In layman speak, the Backrooms are basically Clark's or whoever's own version of Silent Hill. I'm gonna be honest, Clark, bro, you have an infinite furniture generator here. Just steal and sell them until you can afford, I don't know, a chisel. I don't really remember the logistics of what was stopping him from being an architect, but you know what I mean. What I loved most about the film is the idea of memories being repeatedly distilled until they become so thin that they're indecipherable. At first glance, the Backrooms aren't that horrifying, but the way the movie forces you to think about how your brain works in real time is shocking. The film deals heavily with the theme of memory, particularly childhood trauma, especially from Mary's perspective. The Backrooms themselves recreate Mary's childhood home, reinforcing how deeply the past with her schizophrenic and agoraphobic mother shapes her. As both antagonists and protagonists, Clark and Mary share many of the film's central themes, including how they cope with trauma and how they navigate the loops they find themselves trapped within. Mary's opening narration is as much about herself as it is about Clark. I just love the way the Backrooms and Clark's mind merge to explore his and Mary's character. I think the Backrooms represent the way the mind replays past situations over and over again, gradually changing small details until the original moment is lost. This idea is reflected in Clark repeatedly yelling for Mary to admit that he was right. In his mind, the situation has been replayed and altered so many times that he genuinely believes his version of events are true. The lies he tells himself begin to blur with reality, making it difficult for him to distinguish between what actually happened and what he's convinced himself has happened. He remains trapped in that moment from the past, misremembering it over and over until it becomes almost unrecognizable. In this sense, Clark mirrors the Backrooms themselves, an endless space that distorts and reshapes what came before. He's trapped in a mental loop, endlessly reliving and rewriting the same memory without ever escaping it. Presenting architecture and psychology as tools to map out the human experience is just brilliant. Somehow, I think this movie has the same message as Meet the Robinsons 2007. Keep moving forward. I like how the Backrooms themselves aren't just a manifestation of people's trauma. There's no good or evil, it's simply a place that exists. It just is. The characters project their own grief onto it. This association with trauma is exemplified with the supporting cast. Much like how being stuck on past trauma can have destructive effects on the people around you, Clark convincing his employees to go to the Backrooms directly leads to their brutal deaths. One of them he himself ends up straight up beheading. Kat was the only one with enough common sense to not want to explore the Backrooms, and both Clark and her boyfriend ignored her. Clark is somebody that just can't see past his perceived victimhood, and is blind to the ways he hurts others. After this, we spend the rest of the movie with Mary. The pacing here feels like Barbarian Light. Halfway through, the movie switches the audience's perspectives to a different character, though here, it's one we previously were introduced to, unlike Barbarian. We cut to this shot that I really love of Mary. A simple, isolating image that informs you of her loneliness. That maybe that sense of alone her mother forced on her as a child never left. Visual storytelling like this is what this movie excels at. Moments where the camera is looking down a hallway and you see a centimeter of a shadow move, that's when the entire audience in my theater was locked in. However, I do think it had a weaker second half due to parts of the script. I think the monologue that Clark gives to his therapist after tying her to a chair was a little weak. The acting and delivery were captivating, but some of the dialogue just wasn't working for me in this section. There's a lot of great ideas at play, and I get what they were going for with the themes of stagnation in life and feeling trapped in a loop, but the reveal of the monster, the big, tall pirate man, Captain Clark, comes off as a little silly as opposed to scary. There's always that thing of the monster that you create in your head is always going to be scarier than what it turns out to be when shown. Especially when Clark starts talking to it like a pet, he was really just chilling with that thing for a minute. However, I do think Kane Parsons' direction elevates a moment that could have been executed worse in somebody else's hands. Aside from how scary it may or may not come off, it still makes sense narratively. I think the reason Captain Clark looks and behaves the way he does is that, just like how the Backrooms tries to remember you, every memory anyone has of Clark is always a bad one. He puts his employees in danger, yells at Barbara and Mary, all while the only one who can't see he's in the wrong is himself. At least until Mary makes him come to the realization that he isn't the victim. After that, Captain Clark stops being passive, gives real Clark uppies, and takes a big old Burger King CEO bite out of him. Captain Clark is meant to personify the abuser Clark, the alcoholic Clark, the manipulator Clark. Those versions of himself. He even says outright in the second scene of the movie that he is a piece of shit who hurts people. Aside from the fact that I didn't love it from a horror point of view, narratively speaking, revealing the monster is a way of fully personifying how people around him perceive and remember Clark, as a raving, violent monster who wears a pirate costume. He has a permanent sad expression that makes him appear like the victim in any given situation. I think it's interesting that he's more human in a way than the other backroom humanoids. I think it emphasizes the fear of real-world human violence, not just something supernatural. It's real people who hurt others, not monsters. That's what's terrifying. Captain Clark even attacks those primitive cutouts with the sound from the Voyager Golden Record completely unprovoked. Async, the company we see at the beginning, set these up inside the Backrooms to lure and then trap the creature by looping the audio used in 1977 in space to send greetings to extraterrestrial life. But even something as docile as a cutout permanently greeting you, Clark lashes out at. The movie ends with Mary realizing she can't help everyone, especially if they don't want to help themselves. She gets saved by this company, Async, and Creep from Creep is like, we don't know what the Backrooms are, which I like that there aren't really any easy answers in this. He then all but tells her life is essentially over. Mary is both literally and figuratively put back into her own personal backrooms, just like her mother did all that time ago. The backrooms recreate scenes and locations of both Mary's past and present, now merging her mind with it. Backrooms succeeds in exploring the ideas of imperfectly distorted memories, the copy of a copy of a copy, stumbling through a recognizable maze to escape yourself, only to find your true self on the other end. Your cycles of self-destruction, and a 7 out of 10. Spooky.
Oh. Door City over here.
Yes. This is basically, it's like a portal, I guess, in some levels.
Yeah.